This week's all about angles. Geometry is heavy in vocabulary, and it's especially true for this topic. As we go through this video, follow along in your handout. Fill in the blanks and mark the figures to show the angles that we're talking about. We're going to start by looking at vertical angles. Vertical angles are opposite angles that are formed by intersecting lines. Vertical angles are always equal. In math terms, we say they are congruent. Mark those two angles on your figure, showing the angle measures and that they are equal. As you can see, there are really two pairs of vertical angles with every set of intersecting lines. Both pairs, because they're vertical angles, are congruent. If you have two parallel lines and another line that cuts across them, that third line is called a transversal because it transverses or cuts across the two parallel lines. Alternate interior angles are two angles on the inside of the parallel lines on alternate sides of the transversal. I always look for the Z. That Z is shown in black here. Alternate interior angles turn out to be congruent. Mark the Z on your figure and write those two angles in to remind you that those are the alternate interior angles and that they're congruent. There are other pairs of angles formed when you take parallel lines and cut them by a transversal. We're going to look at one other pair called corresponding angles. These angles correspond. That is, they're at the same relative place in terms of the transversal on each line. Again, corresponding angles are congruent. An easy way to find corresponding angles is to form an F from the transversal and the two parallel lines. Look for angles that are in the same relative place in relation to the lines and the transversal. Draw the F and those two corresponding angles on your handout. Another important pair of angles in geometry are supplementary angles. These add to 180 degrees. Supplementary angles can be separate angles, or they can be connected. When they're connected, they form a straight line. We sometimes call these supplementary angles that form a straight line a linear pair. They're linear because they make a line, and there's two of them, so there's a pair. Get it? Complementary angles are angles that add up to 90 degrees. Again, they can be separate, or they can be together, in which case they make a right angle. Right angles have measure of 90 degrees, and the lines that form them are called perpendicular lines. Note the symbol we use to show perpendicular. You can use these angle relationships to solve problems. Look at this figure. The two red angles are known, and we can use that information, plus the fact that those two lines are parallel, to solve for the other angles in the picture, angles labeled 1 through 6. Try this right now on your paper. Here's how we solve this problem. Notice that angle 1 and 142 degrees form a line. That means they're supplementary. 180 minus 142 is 38 degrees. Angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical angles. That makes them equal. Angle 3 and 65 degrees form a linear pair. That makes them supplementary. 180 minus 65 is 115 degrees. Look at the triangle formed by the yellow lines. The three angles in a triangle always add up to 180. Angle 1 and angle 3 add to 153. Subtract that from 180 and you get 27 degrees for angle 4. I see the Z here for angles 2 and 5. That makes them alternate interior angles, so they're congruent. Angle 5 is equal to angle 2, which is 38 degrees. Angle 6 and angle 5 form a linear pair, so they're supplementary. That means they add to 180 degrees. 180 minus 38 equals 142 degrees. That's probably more than you really wanted to know about angles, but it's important. So do a few practice problems for us so that when you get to the proficiency test, you can do them without a problem.